Max Klare was one of the only shows in town at Purdue last year offensively. He's now at Ohio State. His life should get a little bit easier, we would think. 6'4", 236 unofficially. Lined up 60% of the time in line, but he can play in the slot as well. And there's a lot to like about the way he plays. 77 targets, had 5 games where he caught at least 75, had 75 receiving yards. I thought he was a long strider in space, huge catch radius. I wrote plus athleticism, gets in and out of breaks, and then he strides out in space, gets behind second-level defenders. He can stretch the middle of the field with a seam route. A lot to like in terms of what he brings to Ohio State with, Jeremiah Smith. We've talked about Carnell Tate. This offense should continue to be explosive if they get the quarterback position right. Rand, what was your take on Max Klare? And I'll just tell you this, not to throw you off stride, though, but I saw a little Colston level in athleticism in Max's game. Is that a little too rich for you?
No, I'll do you one better and say that just his movement and the fluidity and ease of the movement reminded me a lot of Travis Kelce.
Oh,
okay. And because if you think about Kelce's game isn't quick, explosive, quick twitch movements. It's understanding how to attack leverages, how to lean and set up guys and do it all without wasted movement. And I saw this was how Max moved. Max, everything was smooth and fluid. And so you really see, and you hear this a lot, and I wrote it a lot in my notes, especially at the tight end position, is that you see the guys speed with the ball in their hands. Right, because they're trying to, extend the play downfield and make the explosive. But we're talking about a guy that was just, like I said, is an easy, loose mover that understood how to get open, that understood how to attack leverages, caught the ball really well. I hadn't heard of him before this summer scouting. And so coming off of it, like, if the guy that we're going to talk about at number 1, if he wasn't on the board, this would be the guy that I'd be most excited about watching. And like you mentioned, this offense that he's going in, like, he may not see a year where he's going to have 75 targets. He may not. But I think if you look at the totality of his production, I think it'll be higher from an efficiency standpoint. I think his yards per catch will probably increase. His touchdowns will probably increase. He just won't be the number 1 target in the passing game. But man, like, he was fun to watch. And, he even had a Zach Ertz feel. And to me, just a guy that you're not going to look at as being this dynamic athlete, but next thing you know, this guy's gotten by you, and then you see the back of his jersey because he's running away from you scoring touchdowns.
Yeah, I did note he had some focus drops. I wanted to see him hauling a few more contested catches, but that was in the minority of the plays that I saw. I said he had yards after catch ability. He could run through arm tackles. He consistently made the first defender miss in space, and that's not something you typically talk about with an old school traditional tight end. The other thing, I'm double checking my notes here. We'll talk about Kenyon Sadiq in a second, but Max Klare was that far behind him. I have them both as high second round picks right now. Maybe that's a little rich. We'll see. But do you think there's an opportunity that we see 2 tight ends in the first round 282 days from now?
No, I don't think so. I do, if I'm being honest. I think Sadiq is probably the only one that has a chance to go in the first round. Now I could see Max Klare, definitely being a top 50 to top 60 pick. I could see that happening, but I just don't see right now where you're going to have, like this year, you're not going to have 2 tight ends going to top 20 picks or whatever it was.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If you look at last year's draft class, just from a few months ago here, Mason Taylor was a second-round pick, insane athleticism. Terrence Ferguson, who was Sadiq's teammate at Oregon last year, really good athlete, went 46 overall in the second round. Elijah Arroyo might end up being the best athlete in this group, another second-round pick. And then my guy, Rondé Gatson, not quite as fast, but he looks the part, even though he was 240-ish, 245. He was a fifth-round pick of the Chargers. So, while, I'm accused of falling in love with a lot of these players, you can't have 500 first-round picks. So at some point, guys get pushed around a little bit here, up and down the board. But I think to your larger point, Max Klare transferring to Ohio State, the production might not be what it was at Purdue, but it's probably gonna look a lot better. And let me ask you that, because you talked a little bit about George Kittle going to Iowa and playing with a quarterback that threw for 1,800 yards. Is it easier to evaluate a player at Purdue where the offense isn't nearly what it should be at, say, Ohio State, or going to an Ohio State where he gets a third of the targets? He might only get 30 targets next year, but you're playing in an offense that maybe makes it easier to translate what that looks like at the next level.
Man, I don't want this to sound crazy or arrogant. It depends on the evaluator, right?
Okay.
Because let's just keep it real. Not everybody can evaluate. That's not everybody's strong suit. And I think if you have ability, in one way or the other, whether you see them catch the ball or not on tape, true evaluators find a way to be able to judge whether a guy can catch the ball, whether that's going to see him in practice, seeing him in pregame, whatever that case may be. Fortunate enough for Max, he was able to show a lot on tape, at Purdue. And let's be real, like he was the focal point at Purdue, but then you got to see him against top competition. And so you saw that. But then now you take it a step further from an evaluation standpoint. You put him in Ohio State's offense, and now you get to see what he's going to look like amongst other NFL players, how he's going to fit into an offense and balance out the offense, which is he has two NFL caliber receivers that he's playing with, and then now he's going to be the NFL caliber tight end, and how does he fit in that? So you get to see the full picture of Max Klare and what you get to see him as. You've seen him as a focal point at Purdue, and now you get to see him as a quote unquote role type player in Ohio State offense and how he can add value in that phase.
Yeah, let me ask you, go a little bit further down that road. And I was picking up what you're putting down when you said some people aren't good evaluators. I saw you staring extra hard at the camera, so I took that personally. But I want to ask you about Sam Laporta at Iowa, because, again, it was typical Iowa offense, but everyone and their brother seemed to understand that he was special on the 5,000 flats that he caught at Iowa and didn't do a lot of other stuff, route running. And the other guy is a little different, Dawson Knox at Ole Miss, because he played with DK Metcalf and he played with A.J. Brown. And that offense, it's a little quirky compared to other offenses. In particular, do you remember evaluating those two guys and having trouble, or was it clear to you at some point that they have a chance to be second and third round picks, respectively?
No, I thought it was clear because you saw everything you needed to see. And I'll say this, there were a ton of people in the NFL community. Well, I won't say a ton, but there was a good bit of people in the NFL community that really love Sam Laporta. And I've had conversations with guys just this summer where we're talking about Sam Laporta, where there were some arguments in some draft rooms about people wanting to take him in the first round and having to be held off. And so those arguments happen. But again, we're talking about evaluators. And, in saying that, I want to give Brad Holmes his flowers in taking Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round when he did. And people raised eyebrows. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, throughout his college career, never had more than 145 carries in a single season, but Brad saw what Jahmyr Gibbs could be. And there were other people that loved Jahmyr Gibbs, but had a later value, probably because he was a running back. But Brad saw it, didn't care what everyone else thought, and took him. And now look what he's doing in their system. He's one of the better young running backs in this league.
Yeah, not only drafted him, traded up to 12 to get him. Right after Bijan was drafted at 8, I believe, and he's been absolutely electric, and only 195 or whatever he weighs. He's not 225. He just said that he's lined up more at wide receiver now. So you talk about versatility. We're talking about these tight ends that play inline and again play in the slot. Jahmyr Gibbs is one of the most versatile players on a roster. And the other thing, that same draft class, they took Jack Campbell, the linebacker, in the second round. And I remember folks saying, well, these aren't the needs that the Lions have. Well, the Lions won 15 games the subsequent year. So I think they sort of figured it out. But in terms of our guy here, Max Klare at Ohio State, day 2 right now. We'll hold off judgment until he pulls a Tyler Warren and goes absolutely crazy. But he feels like a guy that can make his way into day 2, no problem, even if he has less production there. All right, Ran, 4 down, 1 to go. We've sort of hinted at who our number 1 is. And before we go to break, I'll just ask you this. Is Kenyon Sadiq a better athlete than former teammate Terrence Ferguson, who was the 46th overall pick of the Los Angeles Rams?
Short answer, yes.
Yeah, that's the right answer.